How is it going with the new record and the touring on Puff of Smoke? How are your fans taking it?
They're taking it well.
Taking it well. They're very patient.
They're very patient with us. And,
They're all excited. We're playing the new music. And
they're being good sports about it.
Yeah.
They're taking it better than we are.
That was probably one of the worst deliveries for a question with one of the best results I can remember, setting the tone early in a conversation with the Wood Brothers when they performed at the Earl Scruggs Music Festival in Tryon, North Carolina, August 29th, 2025. You could say that I shambled into discourse with serendipitous results. My admittedly accidental approach here was echoed later in the interview when the band described their methods for recording, which lean on improvisation and stumbling into things rather than relying on preconceived notions. Beginning in a childlike state and having fun is foundational to the Wood Brothers sound, which has proven to be a winning formula once again on their 9th album, Puff of Smoke, with the title track playing now. Being at the Earl Scruggs Music Festival, we touched on the trio's perspective on the innovations of banjo icon Earl Scruggs, as well as the Wood Brothers' own experimentation and sonic evolution. They make their magic in their studio in Nashville, but all three members live about as far apart as you can get. While Oliver Wood resides close by, younger brother Chris Wood calls British Columbia home, where he and his wife also run a farm. Drummer, percussionist, and keyboard player Jono Ricks resides in Vermont, where he and his wife also teach salsa dancing. This was the first time I had caught up with the trio since early 2017, when WNCW's Martin Anderson and I went to Charlotte's Neighborhood Theater for an interview and session with the Wood Brothers, which was broadcast live ahead of their show that night. A lot has happened in the years since, and their profile has risen to the point that they got the nod to be the Friday night headliner at this year's Earl Scruggs Music Festival. Earl Scruggs Fest won Event of the Year honors at this fall's IBMA, by the way. Coming up, we cover a lot of ground in a lively and often lighthearted conversation that includes the band's explanation for their self-proclaimed happily contrarian outlook, and more, including additional music from Puff of Smoke. I'm Joe Kendrick, inviting you to our episode on the Wood Brothers on Southern Songs and Stories.
Disappears in the moon glow. Every day is a puff of smoke. Take a little ride. Every day is a puff of smoke. Take a little ride. Every day is a puff of smoke. You take a little ride. Every day is a puff of smoke. You take a little ride. Every day is a puff of smoke. Maybe it's a river flowing, taking you where you're going. No matter how you fuss and fight, yeah, you're gonna ride. Yeah, you're gonna ride.
So, Puff of Smoke, 9th record. You talk about how Puff of Smoke posits a happily contrarian outlook. And I wonder how to read that. Is it a kind of gallows
Who
humor?
said that?
Who said that?
It's your website.
But they didn't. But who did they credit with the credit? With the
I
quote?
would have to look up who said it because it did quote you and Oliver on a couple of other things that I
That
did
did not come out of my mouth.
I don't know if you said it though.
It might
A
be
contrarian.
might
Say
be-
that
Okay,
again?
it was
It's a
me.
publicist
It was
thing.
me.
It
I
was
think you
John.
guys are very happily contrarian.
God, I must have had like 3 espressos or something.
But that's such a notable comment, and I'm
Provocative.
wondering how to take it. Is like that some sort of like, is it supposed to be therapeutic? Is it gallows humor? A call to arms? What might you be getting at? Or the person that wrote
Say it again. It was a contrarian,
happily contrarian outlook.
happily contrarian. So I guess that's, I mean, I can only take that as that we're living in such negative times and polarizing times, and maybe this is our little attempt to
Oh, good. I
do
like that.
Little
something
antidote.
contrary to that,
I
to
like
to
that.
to be positive, to bring people together instead of preach and I don't know. I mean, I think there's our own weird, quirky wisdom on this record that we've gained from suffering for so many years as humans on the planet, and like most people do in one way or another. And we've made a nice little niche for ourselves, but by no means are we rock stars, So it's our slow rise to the middle. It's just, this is our little offering.
You wanna make it big, wanna make it big, wanna make it big, wanna make it big, wanna make it big. Give me a slow rise to the middle. Slow rise to the middle. Got a heart of gold, now it's letting your vein. When you turn it up loud, shelter from the pain. Yeah, the quiet wind and the weeping guitar, little plane just appears like a shooting star. You wanna make it big, wanna make it big, wanna make it big, wanna make it big, wanna make it big,
That's a bit of Slow Rise to the Middle by the Wood Brothers from Puff of Smoke, which Chris Wood alluded to earlier in our conversation. In preparing for this interview, I read about how much the Wood Brothers improvised in the studio while making this album, so I asked the band about that and if it was a new thing for them. Here's Chris Wood, followed by John O'Ricks and Oliver Wood.
No, it's always the same
Yeah, it's basically
amount.
yeah.
I mean, the whole process is sort of an improvisation except that you take notes afterwards and then say like, hey, let's keep that part, or hey, that was a good idea to play that drum. Do that again.
Yeah, and someone asked this morning actually about working things out ahead of time or getting in the studio and choosing the sounds then. And I mean, every moment is an improvisation, and the more you accept that, the more you'll come up with something that really works and maybe has some magic to it. Otherwise, if you have too many preconceived ideas and you nail them, it's not as cool as what could have been when we all three go in on Tuesday and it's 11:45 and we're feeling however we are and we ate whatever we ate. If you go what's true to that moment, then
it's fun to discover something.
It's cool.
Instead of achieve something that you've preconceived. It's more fun to stumble into things and discover things,
We've learned this the hard way over many years, where you, like, for example, you're in the studio and you do several takes and you say, by take 4, I killed it. I crushed that take. It was so good. And then you listen back and it's like, oh God, I'm rushing and I'm playing too hard. And what you learn eventually after that happening over and over again, and then you listen to the first take, you're like, wow, there's something magical about that first take. When I didn't know the song that well, I was on the edge of my seat. I was paying attention to every single drum hit and guitar chord that those guys were playing. I was actually improvising. I was in the moment. But by take 4, I had it all figured out, and it didn't sound very good. So I think the lesson in the long run has been like, wow, I can't do it. I have to let it happen. I have to pay attention to what's happening to my environment and react to my environment. Before I do something, I have to hear something to react to. That's how we learned to play with each other over the years.
I find that so interesting because so many artists want to go into the studio and have it all cold. And they are very conscious of not wasting time, that sort of thing.
Well, you can do that, but you can then be like Stanley Kubrick and take 150 takes to the point where you get so out of your mind that it becomes like new and fresh again. So, but
That's expensive.
that's
Work.
expensive. Yeah.
We-
We don't have that kind of budget.
Yeah. We also have we do have our own studio and our engineer we work with. So,
It's a luxury.
if you're a big band starting out or something and you get some studio time, wow, you got to use every moment of that, and you want to have your music down because you really can't afford to go back. But, if we had to go back a few months later, next time we had a break and try something again, we knew we could do that. I mean, that's not why we do it. We would do it this way anyway, but
Yeah.
Not when we were young. I mean, I
Yeah.
didn't know any better. I just thought you made something good by trying super hard, and then
Yeah.
we learned over time that, the less I try, it's better. In the moment, in the heat of the moment. Of course, you try to prepare, but the actual moment of truth,
Yeah. And then
trying is not good.
And then the recording is a snapshot of that moment, and that's it.
Sound familiar? That is a common refrain amongst guests on this series, and beyond that, to people involved in all manner of creative endeavors. Letting go, but being prepared so that you don't have to try so hard as to get in your own way and lose track of the muse. This sounds like good advice for life in general, really. Work to be calm in whatever moment of truth comes your way, and don't overthink it. Put your effort into the preparation for those moments and not too much into the moments themselves. Perhaps this is what the band had in mind on this song from Puff of Smoke, titled The Trick.
Yeah, the trick is not to give it down. 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 Well, the song was all the way stuck. Trick is not to give it down. Good luck. Yeah, good luck.
Talk of letting things come naturally and getting out of one's own way got me thinking about this quote from Chris Wood, which says, "When you're writing or performing, the hope is that your subconscious handles everything and your conscious thinking, judging mind gets out of the way, because your subconscious is the most true, authentic piece of you. You're not judging yourself when your subconscious is speaking. That's how the best art comes about." I asked about his take on consciousness itself and why he said that your subconscious is the most true, authentic piece. Here's Chris Wood.
I would just, to make that clear, because there's a lot of baggage that comes along with those words, and to even make it more clear, I would say that there's built into the language of creativity is this thing that I do it, I create, I take credit, where that's false. Like in the moments, the magic moments that we like to talk about, it's because you're not part of it. It's you turn into a receiver of your senses. Your brain goes away. All the things that you take credit for, you think I do, and you have effort. If all that can disappear and you're just paying attention to your environment and trusting that you can react to your environment, the way you drive a car, all you do is look at the road. You trust that you're going to steer when a turn comes. There's no tension there. There's no preconceived thought. You're paying attention to the road. Here comes the turn, and you turn without even thinking about it. That's the way we try to play music. You just pay attention, and it'll tell you what to do. So you could call that whatever you want, the subconscious, or but it gets the thinking out of the way, and it just kind of makes you giddy, because once you realize that you can't do it, you just kind of giggle and step out of the way and watch it happen, But to prepare for that moment, you got to practice so that your body knows what to do. That's how you build trust with yourself, and so you can allow yourself to stay in that space.
Yeah. I also feel like the subconscious, when you are in that space, you're not judging. You're not judging at all. And I think being real conscious and, like Chris says, trying with effort means you're judging. And you're like, it's just like he said, when you take credit for something, like, I killed that, you're judging just as much as, I screwed it up, you know what I mean? So the best is to be in a childlike state where you're just having fun and you're discovering things and receiving them, like he said.
It feels playful. That's how you know you're in the zone. It's like, everything's just kind of playful right now.
Yeah.
So stage telepathy is a thing.
Sure. Yeah, when you're in that zone, I think
You can call it that, but yeah, it's really just paying attention to your environment. Get it. Like if I want to groove with Jono, I don't listen to me. I listen to him.
Yeah. Yeah, that is key.
It's that simple.
It is very simple. And yeah, I know musicians who have practiced for a long time, they often, say they have trouble with overplaying, which I totally get. But yeah, it's not a problem if you just stop listening to yourself, because you're going to want to hear, oh, I heard a
Something
thing.
else
I'm
is
not going to
happening
cut.
now.
There's something happening there. Like, why would I do something?
Can we talk about the somewhat experimental side of the Wood Brothers, making your own instruments, the synths in Puff of Smoke, that sort of thing? What's different with your approach nowadays?
Like sonically?
Yes.
Well, I would say just with each record, I feel like we let ourselves do something a little more that's part of us that just hasn't come out before. And quite a few things came out on this record.
It's like there's no more rules. I feel like in the beginning, there was this idea that like, oh, we're this kind of music, and therefore we can't play this way. We can't play, this influence from this country because we're supposed to be Americana. And little by little, we're just throwing out all of that and be like, you know what? We're just the Wood Brothers. Like, we have our own voice, our own sound, our own recipe. And we have a lot of ingredients that we haven't even brought into the music yet that we love and are a big part of influencing us. So that some of that came out on this record, some Latin stuff and some crazy jazz stuff. And
yeah, it just sounds that, when you're a kid and you have a teacher and you just think that's all they do.
Right.
Is they just show up and they teach you, and that's their whole life. And then you find out for the first time, whoa, they used to they're a surfer, or
there's a burlesque dancer.
There's a burlesque dancer. We're kind of like that, and we're like that with ourselves too. It's like after a point, it's like, well, wait, this would be cool here, and this is a thing I know how to do, and I did this other thing for years and years.
You did that like reggae dub thing,
yeah,
in Miami.
Yeah. So
do that on a Wood Brothers song.
Sometimes we're just trying to do something that we. Not repeat something we did before. Like, so how can we do something we haven't done yet? What is it? And that can go a lot of ways. We can draw from something, or we can make up something, or put different ingredients together that we haven't tried yet. A combo of sounds, or different instruments, or different tunings, or there's a lot of ways you can just not repeat yourself and play something that you haven't heard somebody else do too. Like, oh, that sounds too much like somebody else. Let's do something different, So a lot of times we know what we don't want to do, but we don't know what it is we're looking for until we find it.
I'd like to talk a little bit about side projects and what else you're doing outside of Wood Brothers, or you might plan to be doing, or how that also factors into what we're hearing on this record and what we might see on stage tonight.
Well, Chris does a lot of farming.
That's a huge side project.
That comes into the songs.
I'm a farmer. No, actually, yeah. There's a lot of my musical heroes did a lot of hard labor, and then played music at night. So I can relate to that now. It definitely makes you hungry for it. We got a new. I don't know if I'm supposed to mention this, but a new MMW record is on the horizon. Anyways, it was recorded about in 2018, but it's finally coming out.
The industry terminology is this is embargoed until
off the record
until we get approval.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, tell me about farming. What are you farming?
So, yeah, the pandemic put my life through a blender, and I ended up squirted out into this little island in the southern Gulf of British Columbia. And me and my wife have some property there that we grow food. So vegetables. It's kind of like an enormous 2 acres worth of just like a garden done mostly by hand, some with tractor, but we try to do most everything by hand. And we sell locally to restaurants and have a stand and stuff like that. So it's small, anybody who does that kind of work, farming of any kind, knows it's an impossibly huge job. You realize quickly that vegetables are unbelievably cheap. compared to how much work it takes to grow them and bring them to market. But it's amazing. It's sort of this weird antidote to touring because I'm like sort of a laborer outdoors all day, every day, all day long. Unlike on tour, you're in this RV right now where we're at, or a bus, or a restaurant, or a dressing room, or a hotel, or an airplane. So it's a weird, very weird life, but it kind of has a balance to it.
Did you have experience before, or did you just jump in?
I was always a gardening nerd. I really enjoyed it, but I never thought I'd ever do it at this scale. So my wife has a little more experience running like an actual farm size kind of growing situation. So it's great. Yeah, I'm learning a lot, but I had enough experience to, be useful.
Nice. Jono, how about you? What are you up to outside of Wood Brothers?
Well, musically, I produce some records on the side, extracurricularly. And so like Seth Walker Records, just finished a record with a band called the Mojo Birds. And the big one, though, is I'm going to release a record with my dad in the late fall of this year. Yeah, it's finally finished. It's like more than 12 years in the making. So pretty excited about that.
His dad is also a great drummer and singer.
Yeah.
Terrific.
Yeah, my dad's been a professional musician his whole life, so I grew up watching him play.
Do we know any of the projects that he was associated with?
Yes, you do. Oh, like Dylan records, and he toured with Dylan.
Excellent.
And Leonard Cohen and Patti LaBelle and
Well, if he can
Bette
hang with
Midler.
Dylan, then he can hang with anybody.
Right?
yeah. That in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Psychologically.
Yeah. So I'm excited about that, and that's just been we've never done anything together, released anything together, so I'm pretty excited about that. November 7th, I believe, is when we're going to release that.
Well, looking forward to that.
And otherwise, I dance a lot of Latin dances with my wife, and we teach, and we started a school in Vermont, Embodied Arts by Rick's. And we just taught at New England Dance Camp, spent a week in the woods.
John is a really good salsa dancer. So, like, for years on the road when he joined the band, we'd play a show, and, you finish, you get back to the hotel, it's late. Oliver and I are like, all right, see you tomorrow, going to bed. John was like, going out to this salsa club, and they're still doing it till 2 a.m.
Yeah.
So, yeah, see you guys tomorrow.
I went out last night, actually. I don't go out that much anymore, but I went out in Nashville after we got into the hotel and found a bachata night.
I don't know how you're going to top this, Oliver.
I can't top any of this. I'm trying to finish.
You got kids.
Yeah, I'm trying to finish up
Topped
the
it.
raising of 2 kids, and I'm almost there, about to cross the finish line. And we talked about how my proximity to the studio is amazing, so I find myself there a lot. Co-writing with other people and making little recordings of my own, or helping other people with music. I love the creative process, and I do think, collaborating outside of the band has helped me grow a lot and bring new things back to the band, and you're constantly learning. So, yeah.
We're at the Earl Scruggs Music Festival, and I wonder what your perspective is on the music of Earl Scruggs, especially, or bluegrass in general. What is your experience with this genre, and any sort of touchstones with Earl Scruggs?
I only know enough to know that I want to know a lot more. Just the way I've heard people talk about him, like Bella Fleck, for example, just talking about how just such a pioneer, and to really be able to understand what it was like back when he was inventing his style, how revolutionary that was, like how new it was. And that's the part that, like the same way, because I was sort of a jazz head for a while, and so of course we learned all about eventually the development of bebop and what it was like, and the people that invented that, Dizzy Gillespie and Charlie Parker. And so
It's a lot like that.
Yeah, so these guys are like the bluegrass version of that, like creating this whole new style. And so it makes you really want to know, like, well, how did they do that, and what's the root of it? Where did it come from? And
I was just going to remind that when we were kids, our dad was our dad was a biology professor by trade, but also a great folk singer and guitar player, and also a huge bluegrass fan. So he played Flat and Scruggs records all the time, and Doc Watson and Newgrass Revival, and so we were definitely exposed to that. But one thing I think of is just like bebop. You know, those guys took elements of, you know, European music, African music, and blended it, and very similar. That's what Earl Scruggs and that group in that time, they were taking Appalachian music, right, and they were taking African music and an African instrument, the banjo, and creating a new language. And what I already talked to somebody about this today, and it was really like, I think it's the innovative part. It's like the part that we've been talking about in the studio. It's like they were searching for something and listening to each other and coming up with a language. And you talked about being psychic connections on stage. It's kind of, you have this language that's also kind of intentional. And so what in general we know about Earl Scruggs and those around him at the time was that they are innovators, and they're innovating. They're taking ingredients that were already there and making new sound, and that was...
What's weird about it is it just sounds so complete. Like,
Yeah.
what they created sounds like you can't believe there was a time where that sound wasn't around.
Yeah.
That's so interesting about it to me.
Yeah.
Like, well, what was it like right before them?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Bill Monroe, right? That was his gig, right? When that was happening,
Oh, yeah.
those guys were, and
He was kind of the architect, and Earl Scruggs is often described as sort of the trigger for all of it, sort of the catalyst for making it go big.
yeah.
Right.
And I was just reading about a Bill Monroe article, and it was about how he was really also into blues and gospel and, you know, African American at that point music, and you know, so he said, you know, it's part blues,
Yeah.
and you know, you don't necessarily think of it that way if it's not obvious. But
Yeah.
I just heard the band playing just out there a little while ago. They did that Ray Charles song, "I Got a Woman," but they did it bluegrass style. It's so cool. I mean, all that stuff.
Yeah.
It crosses over so much.
That's cool.
Ending this episode with the song that begins their 2025 album, this is Witness from the Wood Brothers' Puff of Smoke. Thanks to Oliver, Chris, and Jono for their time, and to Kevin Calabro from Calabro Music Media for helping set up our interview. Earlier in the podcast, you heard Jono Ricks mention his role as music producer, pointing to the latest Seth Walker album, Why the Worry. Recently, we profiled Seth and that record here in the episode titled The Muse Never Worries, Making It Mellow with Seth Walker. Also, Jono Ricks and his father Luther Ricks, as Jono mentioned in the interview, are releasing their debut collaboration titled Legacy Volume 1 on November 7th. They call themselves Ricks, spelled R-I-X. The Wood Brothers put on a smoking hot set at the Earl Scruggs Music Festival, by the way. They are great on their albums, but they are truly a beast live. You can follow this series on social media, at South Stories on Instagram, at Southern Songs and Stories on Facebook, and you can view these episodes and a lot more on my YouTube channel at the handle Joe Kendrick NC. We can also send you newsletters via Substack, where you can read the scripts of these podcasts and get updates on what we're doing and planning in our quest to explore and celebrate the unfolding history and culture of music rooted in the American South and going beyond to the styles and artists that it inspired and informed. Thanks to Jacqueline Anthony for producing the radio adaptations of this series on Public Radio WNCW, and thanks to everyone who follows this series on their podcast platform of choice. Please take a moment and give us a top rating, and where you can, a review. It truly makes a great difference for improving the ranking and therefore the visibility of this series to all the other music fans on Apple, Spotify, TuneIn, you name it. I'm your host and producer, Joe Kendrick, and this is Southern Songs and Stories, the music of the South and the artists who make it.
I'm not the dandy, and I'm not the rounder. I'm not the salty dog, and I'm not the scoundrel. I'm not the mojo working. I'm not the cream dream. I'm not Casanova. I'm not the loving machine. I'm not the alimony. Sure enough, not the hot mess. I'm just a witness.